viewers, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jason, and this is from Sinn's Perspective Reviews. So I just went ahead and watched this, the last episode, episode 10, and okay. So Kai and Lou. So it picks up where Kai and Lou watched the video of Uncle Six being shot and killed by Zan. Okay, so Lou was basically telling him this: that you have to keep your eye on the prize. We still have to get Tommy and Jenny and CG. So I know how it feels to lose someone. I know what you're going through, but you can't let it consume you the way that I have. And he's basically trying to be the voice of reason. So Kai was like, "Okay, I'll meet you downstairs." And so Kai just. That was sad. He was so upset, obviously hurt and angry. He started tearing the apartment up, and then there was this flashback of Uncle Six. Uncle Six was trying to give him this letter. He was basically saying, if something happens to me, open this. And so, at the time, Kai didn't want to take the letter. He just basically like whatever. He just brushed it off. But he got the letter, and he opened the letter. And he was reading it, and he started to tear up. So obviously, we don't know what the letter said, but. But he, had to get himself together. And so Kai and Lou, they go to the meeting place. They pull up, and there's like this radio. Pull up in the woods where this radio was where they was supposed to meet, and McLaughlin is basically telling them, basically giving them instructions. And so basically they want Tommy for the Earthwoo talisman. So they decide they move forward, walking through the woods, and for whatever reason, Lou pulled out his gun. But then you hear a couple of shots, and so now they realize there are snipers around, and McLaughlin was basically like, "Put your gun down," and that's the whole thing. Okay, so they follow him, and it's all of them. So you have McLaughlin, obviously Tommy is there laying out still, clinging to life. Jenny, CG, Zane, the Waterwoo, and of course Kai and Lou. And so McLaughlin decides he's going to go into a sort of speech over. No, initially McLaughlin asked for the Earthwoo talisman. He said heal Tommy first, and so he basically starts going into, I know what you're thinking. You're always, you're thinking about what your next move is going to be. He was like, your girlfriend over there could use a fire, but water beats fire. And so he'll go at the Waterwoo, and then he's saying you could, your big friend here talking about Lou can grab Tommy and try to make a run for it, but then where are the snipers? So he's basically going through just like getting in his head, right? And he goes through this whole spiel, and Tommy basically, Lou basically gives Tommy the Earthwoo powers. And so, because they were all there, whatever that was, it set off, which is what McLaughlin wanted to happen. So they're all there now, and which is why he wanted that relic. And so that was all piece of a puzzle. And so they're all in one place, and then they have this relic. And so now they are all now in the alleyway. So the alleyway is where Yin Yang will meet with Kai to talk to him. Now, backtrack a little bit. In the previous episode, Yin Yang has kind of walked away, and so the person he met this time was the old bald guy, the chef that he had been he had been using his fighting style. So that's who he met. And he was like, "Well, what happened to Yin Yang?" He was like, "Well, she told you that she would meet." That that you were on your own path now, and that you wouldn't meet again. And so he's basically explaining to him what could happen if McLaughlin is able to cross over into that realm, and how disastrous it would be. And so here we are now, fast forward. That's basically exactly what happened. So they all wake up in this alley, and so McLaughlin's just standing there. He's just waiting for his moment, and Kai already has. I'm assuming it had to be McLaughlin's piece, because you saw everybody is going around, and so he was collecting the pieces, like it was automatically like coming together like a puzzle. And so of course he was the last piece, and so it like almost looked like a turtle shell or like a bowl or something. It was kind of weird, and so that was sucked up into the ether, and then uh, Kai was like, something's not right, and so while they were distracted, uh, Alec made a run for the temple, and so he goes into the temple, and of course there's this light, and so he goes into the light. And so his henchmen, they're all out there. And they try to shoot them, but their guns, nothing was working. So now there's this epic fight scene. Still Jenny, girl, Jenny was still getting her. I mean, she was fighting the good fight, like I said, but she was still getting her ass whooped. And they all got a couple of licks, but in the end, they were able to. CG killed Gideon, and which of course the Water Woo was all devastated, broke hearted because that was her boo. And eventually Kai got to the temple. He was going into the temple, and Lou was going to follow him because that's his right hand man. And so Kai basically looked at him and was like, it wasn't any words exchanged, but they could see, kind of read each other. He could read Kai's expression, like, I have to do this on my own. And so so Kai goes into the temple. He closes the door, and so now they're trying to get back through the gateway while it's still open, so they can go back into their world, our world. And so they go through, and of course the Gideon is there dead, and the Water Woo is still there. She's coddling him, and then we flash to McLaughlin. So now he's back in the woods of Scotland. He's back 500 years in the past. Still, it was so funny because he went to where he last saw his wife and his son, and then he looks up and then he sees them walking towards him. And so of course they're kind of like, it's 500 years in the past, and so he's looking at them. He's excited, happy to see them. And then he walks over to them, and they're like afraid because here's this guy in this 21st century garb. He got on denim and I don't know, cowboy boots, and he got this coat and he got the hair. I mean, he just looks completely different. So they're like, oh my God, what kind of witchcraft is this? Why do you look so different? What the hell is going on? And so he, basically he's like, I explained everything. Everything's all good. So they're asleep by the fire, and then he's obviously up, vigilant, and staying watch. And then he hears a noise, and of course he goes to investigate. He was basically like, okay, the Wu assassins, they're back in heaven, and there's no need for all this, or whatever the case may be. And then he sees this dead animal. And then he double backs to go to his wife, and that's when Kai jumps out. And so there was a little scuffle, but Kai ends up getting the best of him, and he stabs him. So his wife jumps on Kai, and he ends up flipping her over, and he's about to slit her throat. But then the son walks up, and he's like, all the tears in his eyes. You can see Kai kind of going back to when he was a child, when Uncle Six kind of rescued him, and he was there with his father's body. So he basically said, I'm sorry, and he ran off. Okay, so we come back to, he's in the restaurant. He's in the kitchen. He's back in the kitchen cooking. Okay, so Tommy comes in to get him, like, okay, Jenny and Lou are all out there waiting on you. So they go and they all sit down. They sit down to have dinner. And, basically talking about how they're still trying to deal with what has happened. This is now 6 weeks later after everything has happened. And Tommy hands Jenny his 30-day chip. He was like, well, actually it's 44 days, but they don't have a chip for that. And so he's basically very thanking her for all of her support and never giving up on him, and they have their moment. And Lou hands Kai an envelope, and basically like she's meeting with all the heads of the triad, and basically he's trying to keep tabs on Zan because he's not letting that shit go, killing Uncle Six. So he was like, just let me know when she's back in town. Basically he'll deal with it then. So Lou gets a text or a phone call, and he has to leave and deal with business. So they exchange a few words, and he walks out. And you see him, he's outside. That's when you see CG, and so they have a conversation. And he was like, well, you can go in and talk to them. And she was like, well, no, they're probably gonna talk about what happened. I'm just not there, and I'm just gonna go for a drive and clear my head. And they have their little moment. And then she steals his car, so that was funny. All he could do was stand there and laugh, right? So that was funny. So she's gonna go for a long drive in his ride. Okay. um. So we go back into the restaurant. This woman, she walks over and she hands Kai a bill. So they all sitting there confused, like, what the hell is going on? Who the fuck is she? Like, she must be new. She's getting fired. So Tommy, it's an extra with himself. So he grabs the bill and it's like, who is this person? And so he leaves to go deal with that. And Jenny and Kai are still at the table and they're talking. And she was basically asking them, so when you went to the temple, was it for the Tao or was it to get revenge on Alec? And he kind of looked at her. He didn't really say too much. And so she was like, well, when you're ready to talk, I'm here. So she went and got a drink. And then now entered this new guy, Ron. What was his name? Roland Ong. I don't know. Okay, so they started changing. He's asking her, like, has she ever thought about getting into public service? And she is a guy they went to school with. And so Kai is still sitting there with the envelope. He opens the envelope and it's the photo of Zan. And they, have they're having their conversation. And the next thing you know, the building starts shaking. And so Kai is like, what the hell's going on? And up walks Ying Ying. So she was like, hi, Kai. She said, your job as a assassin isn't over. And so the building is starting to crumble and she's drinking her, I guess that was sake. I don't know what that was, but she had a little sip. But she was like, no, you're not done. And that's basically how the episode ended. So, I don't know. I just expected more. I really didn't expect Uncle Six to really be dead, to be honest with you. I don't know. I expected something different, expected something more. But, so... I mean, up until that point, it looked like the season, the show could have ended with that last episode up until Ying Ying walked up and said, it's not over. So we're just assuming it's going to be a season 2. But we know how Netflix be sometimes. Sometimes they don't do that. So we'll wait. I'm going to wait and see. Like I said, I still haven't looked up to see if they've been renewed for season 2. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really know, but like I said, it was kind of lackluster. But okay, but I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.